Hi, I'm Brandy Kirk. I'm one of the teachers from the Barral Institute. I teach VM1, VM2, VM3, and VM1 Bootcamp for your hands, part 1, 2, and 3. What I'd like to do today is take time to explain the visceral-somatic feedback loop. This is something that all the teachers in VM1 describe, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to have this online for you to go back to anytime that you want. So when we talk about the visceral-somatic feedback loop, why do we even care about this? One reason is it kind of explains what the body does and why maybe your patients or your clients' symptoms are somewhere else than where you're actually going to treat. So this is a really good way to describe it to the patients of why maybe you're not working that muscle or that joint and instead working an organ. So this is a good way to explain it to them in a more scientific terms. But I'm going to try to keep it really simple and maybe fun, so again, it's easier for your patients and clients to understand. The other reason why this is important to us is with this feedback loop, we can actually have an effect on this loop. So if we understand it, we can understand where our treatments can actually change the loop a little bit. And so that's what I'm hoping you can get from this. So I want to show, I'm not good at drawing, so let me tell you what you're looking at here. This thing that looks like a piece of French bread is a muscle. This little guy up here is an organ. This whole section right here is the spinal cord, so we're in the middle of the spinal cord here. D is dorsal, V is ventral. This little dot in the center is the alpha motor neuron, and we'll talk about that in a second. The X down here is lamina 9. And then this little green line here is the visceral afferents. A is an apple, so visceral afferents. And this little blue line here is the visceral efferents. E is in ear. And so that's kind of the layout here. And so this is what really happens when your patients are coming in and complaining about things. Let's just use an example. Let's say this organ is the liver. Okay, so it's the first organ that you learned. It's a huge organ. That's why we give it to you first. It's a little easier to palpate. So let's say this is the organ, the liver. And so what the liver does is, let's say it's upset for some reason. And it's upset. And so the liver makes a phone call. Okay, it makes a phone call through the visceral afferents. Okay, A is an apple. And think of that phone call as a 911 phone call. So this is a 911 phone call from the liver. That phone call is coming down to the alpha motor neuron, right? That's the 911 dispatcher. Okay, 911 dispatcher is the alpha motor neuron. So it kind of goes like this. The liver calls, bring, bring, bring. Alpha motor neuron 911 dispatcher picks up the phone and says, 911, can I help you? And the liver is like, yeah, I can't take it anymore. All day long as she treats her patients, she is right side bending, she's left rotating, right side bending, left rotating, 8 hours a day. It's putting all this mechanical stress on me. It's compressing me. I can't breathe. And then she comes home at night and she drinks 2 bottles of wine. I did not say glasses. 2 bottles of wine. So she drinks 2 bottles of wine every night. So I get traumatized all day long, and then I have toxins going through me at night with 2 bottles of wine. I can't do it. And so the 911 dispatcher says, okay, liver, I'll get you some help. Let me make a phone call. So she hangs up the phone with the liver, she picks up another phone, and she calls along this red dotted line down here to lamina 9. Still in the spinal cord. So she calls lamina 9, they pick up, and they're like, fire station, how can I help you? And the 911 dispatcher says, hey, this is 911 dispatcher. I just got off the phone with the liver. Liver's really having some tough times. It's being traumatized during the day, having toxins at night with 2 bottles of wine. The firemen, or the fire people, actually laugh at the liver, and they laugh because he can't hold his liquor. And then after they get done laughing, they're like, okay, we'll go and get him some help. So they jump in their fire truck. So the fire truck is the visceral efferents. Again, E is in ear. So they get in this fire truck, visceral efferents. They go out to the muscles. Okay, so now these muscles would be the muscles around the liver. So you remember in VM1 where you drew the liver, it's enormous, right? It takes up a lot of your body. And so just think about the muscles that might be tightening up in that area. So that could be kind of some of the upper back muscles on the right. maybe some intercostals on the right-hand side. There's a lot of muscles that could tighten up and guard and protect this organ. So when they come out here to the muscle and they say, hey muscle, do me a favor. I need you to guard and protect the organ. The organ's having a tough time. I need you to stabilize the liver. Stabilize it. Don't let it move. It's already dealing with enough stress. We just need it to kind of immobilize. So think of that as like if you broke a bone and you would want to immobilize that bone. The body kind of does that to organs when the organs are in distress. It doesn't really want any more trauma coming into the system. So all the muscles tighten up around the liver. Okay. Now, the liver feels really good about this. Okay. So the liver stops calling the 911 dispatcher for help because it's like, hey, I'm being helped. I feel really, really good. But in a short period of time, as we all know, all of a sudden we have pain. Right? We have pain along the lines of the liver. So now your patient or your client is going to come into you and they're going to be complaining about maybe right shoulder pain. As we know, all of a sudden you can't move that right arm very well if that liver is involved. It'll kind of pull you down mechanically. And if we release the liver, then the shoulder gets better. So they come in, they complain of shoulder pain, maybe right neck pain, right upper back pain, maybe intercostal pain over here on the right-hand side. And if you're like every practitioner out there, I'm a licensed physical therapist by education and by license. And, when I was in school, they would tell us how to release muscles, right? So that's what I probably would do. Maybe some joint work. Maybe I would release some joints. Or if I was really lucky, maybe I'd work on some nerves. But that's kind of what I learned in school back in the day. Things have probably changed a little bit now. But that's kind of what I would do, right? I would go to where their symptoms were and I'd try to get rid of their symptoms, right? And that would make them feel better. Right? And so you would do that. You would come in, you would do all the massaging, trigger point releases, any release that you know how to do, right? Whatever you specialize in, patient gets off your table, they feel really, really good. They leave, they're feeling great. But a couple days go by and all of a sudden things start to creep back, right? Their pain starts to creep back, that muscular pain, the achiness in the joints, all the things that came in for you before are coming back. Maybe those shoulder manipulations you did, they held for a couple days and now they're coming back, right? So what's really happening in the body at that time is all of a sudden the liver is like, okay, I don't feel supported anymore by these muscles. And by the way, we didn't change the behavior of this patient or this client. So the patient is still in her job, side bending and rotating all day long and putting a mechanical stress through that liver. And then she's coming home and drinking 2 bottles of wine a day. So we have to look at the behaviors that are causing some toxicity and some mechanical trauma to the liver before that's going to change. And we didn't do that. We just treated the symptoms. So what's going to happen is the liver is going to call the alpha motor neuron again, right? It's going to call the 911 dispatcher through the visceral afferents, okay, through the 911 phone call. So the liver calls, 911 phone call, 911 dispatcher picks up, says 911, how can I help you? And the liver's like, I felt great. I felt great for a couple days. And now I don't feel so good anymore. I'm really, really struggling. I thought you were going to get me some help. And the 911 dispatcher says, well, I did. I don't really know what happened. So she gets off the phone. She calls down to Lamina 9 to the fire station. She's like, hey guys, just talked to the liver. Liver feels like he's not supported anymore. I don't know what's going on. And they're like, well, I don't know. We told the muscles to guard and protect him, so we don't really know what's happening. So they're like, we'll go check it out. So they get in their fire truck, which is the visceral efferents, and they go out in their fire truck to those muscles that are around the liver, and what they find are these muscles are laying on the couch eating bonbons and smoking a cigarette, and they're like, what are you doing? And the muscles are like, that is the best massage I've ever had in my entire life. So the fireman said, whoa, you're not supposed to be chilling out and relaxing. That's not your job. You're like the army and the military. You're supposed to guard and protect. You're on duty. So tighten up, go and protect the liver again. So what do? They tighten up, they protect the liver again, and all the symptoms come back. All the symptoms come back. So the patient comes back into your office, all the symptoms come back. They say, hey, I was great for a couple of days, and then everything returned. And then what do? It's what I did for years before I found the visceral work. Well, it worked the first time for a couple days. Maybe if I do it a little longer, a little deeper, maybe a little harder on those muscles, maybe it'll last this time. So I do the same thing I did in the treatment before, and guess what? Everything is calm for a few days until the liver feels like it's not supported again. And here we go back again with this 911 phone call and a reaction of the muscles. And this keeps happening over and over again every week or every 2 weeks, however long you see your patients. So my question is, what is the definition of insanity? Right? It's doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome. And I lived it for years, and luckily I'm not living it anymore, which is great, and hopefully you've changed as well. Right? And so what we want to do, what's going to be really important for us to do, is through our general listening and our local listening, we actually get to the liver, right? They came in with a neck pain, right-sided neck pain, right-sided shoulder pain, maybe right-sided rib pain, and the patient's complaining of that, but our listening took us to the liver. So then we get to explain this to the patients, right? We get to explain, why am I treating your liver? Why am I doing a liver lift or some type of lever technique on you when you have neck pain? Why am I not touching your neck? Why am I not touching your shoulder? This is how you explain it. And this is really the mechanism, because if we come in and we kind of work that liver and maybe we tell the patient, maybe you shouldn't have 2 bottles of wine a night. Maybe you should have like 2 glasses or maybe 1 glass, and then you'd be okay. And then now let's look at your ergonomics on how you're side bending and twisting all day long. How can we change that, right? And now the liver is happy, right? The liver's happy. And then the liver's not going to send this 911 phone call, and then the fire truck and the efferents aren't going to go out and tighten up those muscles again, okay? So we've stopped the 911 phone call loop from happening. So then, massage therapists out there, I know you treat muscles, so you can always treat muscles. Always, always, always. However, you might not want to treat them first, right? So Jean-Pierre Barral says, muscles, wastebasket of system. That's his quote. And I've never seen Jean-Pierre directly treat a muscle except for the subclavius muscle. That's it. So why does he not treat the muscles? Because they typically, unless you rupture a muscle or tear it, it's typically not the primary issue. Remember, these guys are like military, right? They go and they do a job and a task, but they're not the origin of the problem, right? They're just guarding and protecting. You can still work them, but how about we figure out what's causing them to tighten up first? So again, if we can work this liver, right, then you could go in and say, okay, all these muscles in this area, after I work your liver, do some visceral work on the liver, let me do my massage on those muscles. Let me do my trigger point releases or whatever it is you do manually in that area. And now it's calm, the liver's calm, and guess what? That 911 phone call through the visceral afferents and then eventually the visceral efferents is not going to happen anymore. And that way your patients have a longer lasting effect, and they're going to be a lot happier with you in the end, because anybody can make their patient feel better on the table during a session. It's really amazing practitioners that can make that last. So this is what we do, and I invite you to keep this visceral-somatic feedback loop and the 911 phone call in mind.